And I'm gonna
Sure
sit.
doesn't.
Does it look a little weird that we're like sitting like almost on each other?
No, Mom, move over here. Mom.
It's him. I
I can't
keep
see any of your legs.
I
We're
keep
not sitting
wanting
on each
to be
other.
near him.
Honey, I feel like if we do, we're gonna have to start rating the video.
Hello, my dears. This is Sarah from SheHoldsDearly.com, and today I have with me what people are starting to call He Holds Dearly. This is my husband, Colby. We are here to answer some questions about owning a fixer-upper and the realities of that. The title of this video is, Are You Ready for a Fixer-Upper? Which I thought was funny, you know, like, because Fixer-Upper show says, are you ready to see your fixer-upper? That was my joke. And we want to go into our story a little bit with our house. We have a 1906 farmhouse that was an old rental. When we found it, we fell in love with it on the spot. We bought it 3 days later, and then reality hit. So we're gonna share with you the pros and cons of fixer-upper, and in the end, let's talk about like who would be a good fit for this kind of a lifestyle and this kind of a project. This picture basically sums up what happened. I found the place. I thought it was wonderful. We'd been looking for 10 years. Actually, it was the very first blog post I ever wrote called Finding Our Way Home. I'll link it in the description below, and you can read what led up to finding our house. Like, it was like a 10-year wait. So by the time we found this place, we knew exactly what we wanted, and we just loved it right off. Or I loved it right off. I don't think you loved it right off necessarily. But I remember us looking at it, and we knew our dollar amount right, and so it was like within $1,000 of our dollar limit. And I remember you were sitting in the office at the old house, and you were like crunching numbers that night going, oh my gosh, I think I have to like figure this out. And you looked a little nervous. He had his friend over, and he was like, I think I have to
I think I was
do
sick
this.
that night.
I have my background in interior design. He's been in construction, and we actually had like a new remodeling business that we just had merged with our painting business. So we're like, this is perfect. This will be like our playground, right? We had 3 kids. Our youngest was 4. So it was like 4, 6, 8 at the time. And that's a huge factor. So we'll touch on that in a little bit, but was it my fault?
Well, that was a pretty big part of it for sure. I think the biggest thing was we lived in I guess just a regular suburban neighborhood. We lived in a cul-de-sac, and
We had like 1/8 of an acre.
yeah, it was just a regular,
3 little
just
kids.
a little, regular house. And I think I remember driving home, and there were kids everywhere, and I didn't know any of them. And we've always been a little bit protective of our kids, and that we wanted to know who they're playing with and why and what they're doing and everything. And it just seemed, actually, as I drove down the street, it just seemed like kind of chaos.
And we
We're-
didn't really know the kids. We're like,
No, we didn't know the kids.
who do you belong to? Like, do they know
Yeah.
you're down here? And just not the feel that we were wanting for our kids.
Right. You found the place. We did the tour, and I remember the kids rolling down. I specifically remember them rolling down the hill right there and just laughing and giggling.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like, well, I just said to myself, well, we just have to do this because this is right.
They needed the space. It was time. Like,
Right.
I don't even think we realized like how much they were needing space, but God did, and so He just opened this door at the right time.
Yeah,
but-
it's neat for kids. I mean, I grew up in the country, so did you.
Yeah.
And so living, in sort of the city or suburban is just totally different from being able to go outside
build
into
forts and play in the
Yeah.
creek and grow
yeah,
things
yeah.
and
all those
have your
things.
animals.
So that's what I think we were more wanting, and we just didn't have that where we were for
Yeah.
the kids. Yeah.
So our place now is 4 acres, which is not huge compared to some places, but it does feel good for our family. And you know, we knew we needed a bigger house. We were in like 13,000 square feet.
100.
Yeah, needed more space. We had about 1,300 square feet at the last house, and so we knew it was tight. We knew we wanted to move up, and we'd been looking for a long time. And we always I had totally had the building plans, had it all figured out. Like, we thought we were gonna build, and just, I think like 3 different times, like, we were doing the paperwork and figuring out utilities, and for whatever reason there was issues, and it ended up falling apart, and it was so sad. And so I don't think we ever thought we would do a fixer-upper.
No, we didn't.
But this place had everything on our checklist. So, and I love the idea that it was an old house. So there you go. Like, we kind of like fell into this opportunity to do a fixer-upper. And I don't even think fixer-uppers were cool yet. They weren't trendy yet. Now I think a lot more people would like jump at the chance to have an old farmhouse. But anyway, it was kind of an accident, and yet it had so much of what we wanted that we did it. So I feel like that we have a detached garage, 4-bay, as big as our last house. And I feel like that has been really, really important to having a fixer-upper. If you're gonna redo a house, you need some like workspace, and not just in, you know, the living room. It's hard enough. So if you need a big garage, or you need a detached shop or something where you can have your tools and work on things and store your materials, store the stuff. I mean, it feels like you're always kind of moving, because you're working on a space, and those living items that you would have in there, they're moved out. Furniture's moved into the next room or out in the shop or something. So I really love that we had another building to kind of prep everything in. That was huge. I also think that we did get to use our skill sets. Of course, we were stretched beyond our experience, which is okay. And for that, I say be stubborn. Be stubborn about what your vision is, how many trips are you willing to take to Home Depot, and how many years are you going to work on it. I think skills are good, but if that completely overwhelms you, I think that even more so, it's stubbornness that is so good. And we have both of those. And so I think that's what has gotten us through the process of redoing an entire house. I've actually heard remodeling is harder than building. I haven't built. I have never. Someday I might love to do a new build just because I want that experience. But the dismantling and then the rebuilding is just like as messy as it can get. And then you're dealing with an old house. I mean, we would open walls, and I'm not kidding, we would find sweatshirts for insulation and old newspapers. And we found an old diary that we ended up giving to the original family. Like, and none of these walls are accurate. Like, they're all wonky. And even like my son's room, like, he had a dresser in his room, and the floor was so slanted that the dresser drawers would open. So that's something you're going to deal with an old house, is just bad, like botched construction projects and electrical whatever they were trying to do, and you just don't know what you're opening up and what you're going to have to refigure out. But my number one advice would be to be stubborn. Just keep asking questions. Just keep getting on YouTube. Hire it out. Just keep going towards, just keep going towards your vision.
I would agree with Sarah in that it was really nice to have a shop. So we bought the place, and it has a big 4-bay shop, and we were able to keep our tools there, able to go out there when it's raining. Yeah. And you can work, and you can build, and you can fabricate things and do all that. You can store things there. I want to say that's really important, to have a shop of some sort that you can work in. So that was really good.
I also feel like we kept our family intact through the whole process. It's very stressful to have children, and we homeschool too. It's very stressful to have the kids in the mix, but I feel like, according to them, it was fun. It was an adventure for part of their childhood. We were able to not fight too much about the stress and the decisions and the money and all of that. I feel like we did it well, having fun as a family with this adventure, so I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is an adventure, and things are slow and they take longer than what you think, and it's dusty and dirty. There's a lot of challenges in doing a remodel, especially when you're living in the middle of the remodel. When we remodeled, most of the time we weren't there, but then we've kind of been remodeling for 10 years, and obviously we've been here living in the middle of it. So
I don't know if I said that in the beginning. It's been 10 years. So we have some perspective on this lifestyle.
So I think the other thing for us is that we had a construction company that we rolled in. I mean, we were a general contractor, so we did remodels and everything. But I was around a lot of people that had skills in electrical and plumbing and framing and all of that. And I really drew on all of that. You got to figure out a way. I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff. So if you don't have these skills, but you're good at going to YouTube and figuring things out, I mean, you can do that, but you really have to understand that it is going to be a slow process.
It's like giving birth.
And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to redo some things.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the...
Well, that's kind of going into number 3.
What would I do differently? I know that I thought that this whole remodel process would go faster.
I think that's the number one thing.
And so I think that you just have to realize it is very much a journey. And there's different rates that you can go. I mean, the more money you have, the faster you can remodel. We talked about this in the contracting interview that we did. If you have a time limit but you have money, you can hire professional contractors. That's their job. They come, they work, they get it done, and you could go through a remodel fairly quickly, or a lot more quick for sure than if you are doing it. You work your 40 hours at your regular job, and then you come home, and on the weekends you're trying to do things.
Weekend warriors.
So you have to know that it's going to take a lot of time.
And I've heard that it takes triple the amount of time. If you think you're going to paint a room in one day, you're going to do it in it's going to be 3 full days. Like when we redid our stairs, the kids were gone for a week, and we're like, let's do it. Let's refinish these stairs. We've got 1 week. No, it was 3 weeks. We worked every day. We couldn't even walk up the stairs. We were like climbing up the ladder into our bedroom at night, and if you think it's an hour, it's 3 solid hours, and it's probably like 3 trips to Home Depot, or probably not within those 3 hours. But it's just amazing the detailed issues you can run into. It's just amazing.
You have to be patient and not just get frustrated.
Yeah, we've figured our house, like for every square inch, has probably been like 3 hours for every square inch what we've put into it. So if that is like, no way would you say that?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to be fact checked on that.
Oh gosh. Anyway, if you're like, no way, I'm not doing that.
It takes a long time. I think that's the point.
Yeah. Then I wouldn't buy a fixer-upper.
And it always takes longer.
I think that it's romanticized and glamorized to buy a fixer-upper. And so we're just wanting to like give you a little dose of reality that it's not all romantic. A lot of it's not romantic. Okay. If you're getting an old house, you need some extra money. Like I've heard 20 or 30%, if your budget is a certain amount you want to add in, just 20-30% of that's a lot. Just for the surprises, just as you open the walls and you're like, what were they thinking? Like we found broken pipes. We had to replumb, we had to rewire, we were taking out walls, we were redoing floor joists. We even like buried power lines on the property. We spent so much money on the not fun stuff. And every time we'd find more stuff to do, I was like, there goes the chandeliers, there goes the fireplaces, like all the fun, like pretty things that I was excited about were just like, I mean, how much is a septic system? We don't have a septic system, but I know friends that have bought fixer-uppers and they're like, yeah, there's like $8,000 for that I didn't want to spend, you know? So there's surprises like that. Mm-hmm. So have extra money and be ready to just like hold on through the storm. I did say earlier that our kids have really enjoyed the process, and so I'm happy about that. I think that if I did it again, I would maybe want to be an empty nester and maybe like live in a trailer next to the house. So it's just that living in the remodel is a whole nother level of stress, because you're and kitchen remodels are the worst. Trying to eat 3 times a day, feed people. And so when we gutted it and there was no power in the house for 2 months before we moved in, and trying to feed my family 3 times a day, there were days our other house is like 8 minutes. Our previous house is 8 minutes from here. There are many times I made like 15 trips between the 2 houses. It's just a total waste of time. Like if I could have just stayed on the property and had a little kitchen, and I mean, I would cook over a campfire and try to feed us. We had so much Little Caesar pizza. It was like we were going to turn into Little Caesar pizza. It was disgusting. And then I remember one time I brought him a chimichanga from Costco. He was working on the house and he was just like going into burnout mode, just like zoning out. And you were in the hallway and you had just like, what's it called when you like, it's just like you sand down the sheetrock and there's all this sheetrock dust. Because we removed a lot of the lath and plaster because we redid all the wiring. And so there was a lot of new sheetrock that went up. And then you sand it and there's all this dust. And so he's eating his chimichanga and he drops it in a pile of sheetrock dust. And it was all I had to give him for that dinner that night. And he picks it back up and just starts eating it. And I was like, oh yeah, we're losing it. We are in over our heads. That was kind of a low point. But like you get to that point, you're just like, you can't eat. There's like nothing's clean. There's dust on everything. And so trying to do that with little kids, and they don't understand that to not touch these tools. And I think it was hard to have the kids involved. I think there was a grace on it. You can do it. Make it fun. And here's a little like FYI for homeschool moms. If you are moving into a fixer-upper and trying to homeschool and deal with the fixer-upper, like give yourself a break. Like catch up in the summer later. I wish I would have listened to that advice. Just dropped the homeschool. Like the process of moving and redoing a house is so educational to your kids. Let life just teach them, and don't worry about the books in that season. So the first push to get in is so hard. I mean, we took literally dump trucks full of dirt and debris and all of the remodeling junk that we ripped out of this place. Dump trucks full out of here. So now, the blog came out of this, and that has been awesome. And then sharing our DIY processes with the world has been awesome. So yes, we got through the first hard days, and now we are still remodeling and redoing a lot like on a smaller scale. It's easier. What would you say about that process for maybe like you're already in your house and you're gonna redo some things? That's a smaller scale, but I would say honestly it's the same. Like it's difficult to live in, plan extra time, have extra money, be persevering through it.
Yeah,
like,
well,
because we're still in this thing, still in the process.
Right. I think that there's a lot of people that will always be working on their property. If they don't have a deck, they'll want to put a deck on so they can have dinner party or sit out in the afternoon or whatever. And if you got a yard and you like your yard, you're probably going to put in an irrigation system because you don't want brown grass. So, I mean, there's that, and you got to paint your house. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you don't usually like that price tag from $3,000 to $5,000 or $6,000, so you figure out how to do it yourself. And,
Yeah.
you
On
know,
weekends, weekend warriors.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know, you just have different people, and certain people are going to choose to do more of their own things. And then some people may have a little more money and a little less time, and that's where you get in, but they want to still do it themselves, so they find themselves in this general contractor role.
One thing I would say for the like lifestyle of the fixer-upper is that even though you've got projects going on, just continue to live your life. Even though it's been 10 years and you're still working on things, go on vacation, take time to rest, have people over. Don't stop living, because I do feel like that hit us really hard, especially in the beginning. Like, our social life just shut down. Like, we couldn't go anywhere. Like, every spare second was trying to get this house put back together so we could live in it. And that needs to calm down a little bit. And even though we love doing this stuff and there's always stuff going on, we still take time to leave town and have people over, and you gotta still live and have the birthday parties, and I think that's important to not get, you just can't keep up that pace for 10 years.
No, you have to celebrate when there's times to celebrate, and I think that's the patience aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to keep working.
Yeah.
Or
you can take too big of a break and then it never gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so depressing to have something half finished. So take a break, but write it on the calendar when you're going to get back to that project.
Yeah.
And make sure you do get back. Okay, so are you ready for a fixer-upper? And I think, like, after you've heard what we've had to say, you just got to ask yourself, like, am I okay? Or do I have to have my home, like, absolutely perfect all the time? Does it, like, stress me out that this could take years? Then maybe you don't want to do this. Like, don't get too in love with the idea of a fixer-upper. There's a certain type of person that can do this, and a certain type that just needs to, like, get their family into a newer home and do some smaller cosmetic things.
Yeah, you have to be patient and know that things are going to take a while. There's a lot of difficulties, but there's a lot of, I mean, I'm thinking about the whole interview and it sounds like we're negative on everything, but you know, some of the most fun things in life aren't easy. So
in fact, the things that are
don't say everything.
Well, some of the hardest things in life, they're
rewarding. They're
like getting a college degree, or like staying married over decades. Like, those are real. They really test you. So you don't ask, is it hard? You ask, is it worth it? Is it a net gain? That's the question you need to ask. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
But we are telling you that there's some true hardships in it.
Yeah.
Just be ready for that. And then ask yourself, like, is it still worth it to me? And if you're the kind of person that's like, I just love, like, learning stuff, and it's just therapeutic to just be, like, painting for weeks on end, and, well, you might be the right kind of person. But if you hate that stuff and you don't want to hire it out, I would skip the fixer-upper.
Yeah, you certainly need to understand what it is that you're getting into.
All right, thanks so much, you guys, for hanging out with us, watching this video, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, your experiences, your stories of finding your fixer-uppers, or maybe the fixer-upper that you let go and you think, that was probably all for the best. So love hearing from you guys, and if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I do post regularly, and I love to share my DIY design advice and our vintage farm life. All right, take care. I'll talk to you soon.